And we are now live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We're going to have a great time. As you see here, it's a Monday, but Keola is so amazing as a host, and he's blessing us with his presence once again to be the amazing host that he always is. So thank you so much, Keola, for coming. How you doing, Keola? You doing good today, brother?
Excellent. It's Monday. Great day, right? Kicking off the
It's
week. Here
Monday.
we go.
Yeah, man. And we have an amazing guest today. We have a gentleman who's a veteran who served our country, and my man Paul. Paul, how's it going, brother? How you doing?
It is a great Monday. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And Paul, your signature there at underscore Paul Lutter. That's how people can DM you through IG. Correct? Is that correct?
For sure. Yep.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. And to those that are in the chat, so of course I brought this up last week, and I'm going to bring it up again. We had the Money Bee Challenge on the 3rd and the 4th, and for many of you guys who missed it, I received some emails of individuals who started day one but they couldn't finish it. So what I'm going to do today, per pace, is I'm going to put day one and day two of all of the notes into the chat, so you can just hit the link. Now, if you don't get immediate access, it's okay. I'm going to be dinged on my end. So after the show, I'll go and look at my emails, and then I'll be giving everyone access who wants access. For day two, day one is about 33 pages PDF, great, very informative information. For day two, that information, I'm going to just send you the PDF via email. So be on the lookout for that. And without any further ado, hey, Keola, Paul, you guys have a great time. And if you need any help, I'm in the back.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, as always, welcome, aloha, and welcome to Pace Morby's Get Creative live Q&A. I'm your host, Keola Kiala, private money and transactional lender, Gator, lender per se, as they call it in Pace's community. Looking to help you guys find your deals and do some real estate deals with you guys creatively moving forward. Today, as Derek already mentioned, we have the pleasure of talking story with Paul Lutter, part of Pace Morby's sub 2 and Gator community, and a private money lender. Welcome, Paul. Big mahalos, and thank you for joining us and taking the time today.
Yeah, Keola, thanks for having me. Thanks for hosting this. Looking forward to getting into what we're going to get into today.
Yeah, you bet. And let's just dive right into it, Paul. First off, as we can see behind you, there's so much history and significant artwork. I'd love to, if you could share with the community, those joining us live, a little bit about yourself, your background, and what you did prior to joining Pace's community.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background's in healthcare and in the military. And so both myself and my wife were retired from the Navy. We both were in healthcare. She was on the administrative side, and I was on the fix you side as a physician assistant. So during our time, we both had the pleasure of serving both with commands in the Navy and commands with the Marine Corps, which means that we go everywhere that the Marines go, whether that be on a floaty boat or a dirty, sandy place overseas. We both served, and it was our honor to do it. So we both retired in 2018 and started to assimilate back to what we would consider normal civilian life.
Well, first off, thank you and your wife for your years of service protecting our community and our freedom here in our nation. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yep.
So Paul, as you guys have assimilated back to civilian lifestyle, what led you into real estate? And if you could talk about that journey and really what led you into Pace's community.
Yeah, it was a bit of a trek and a journey for me. So again, I retired from the Navy in 2018. And so my planned path for myself was to continue on in healthcare. And so as a physician assistant, I hopped into private practice. And it just was no longer a good fit for me. I still really enjoyed helping people and serving patients and problem solving to help them to feel better and get better. But the business of healthcare was much different than the realities of the military healthcare system. And so I really struggled within that for a couple of years and tried to make it work. And so did some job changes from treating patients to supervising to teaching at the collegiate level, and all of which were great. But at the end of the day, I didn't have that same burning passion to continue doing that. And so I had to take a really hard, honest look at, okay, I'm not in my 20s anymore. I spent a couple of decades and got a whole bunch of degrees and credentials to do what I'm currently doing. I can either continue down that pathway, unfulfilled and unhappy, or I can find a different path. And so that's where real estate kind of came into the picture. And how much people are able to do within real estate, from wealth generation, generational wealth, to just providing a great lifestyle. And so I wasn't sure where I was going to start. And I thought I was going to be fixing and flipping everything under the sun. And that was a bit of a struggle as far as the lead generation side for me. And so what everybody always needs is capital. And so I did have some of that. And that's how I just began to kind of form and leverage relationships in real estate was through providing capital.
Got it. So you mentioned that you entered the real estate world really to find a passion or something that you're passionate about to provide generational wealth. Can you walk us a little bit about that journey for you and how you've found yourself where you're at today and into Pace's communities?
Yeah. Just trying to figure out, again, how am I going to feel fulfilled in helping people? Because ultimately that's what I've always enjoyed doing. And so with real estate being able to provide such vast opportunities, what I found was, much like medicine has so many subspecialties, I'll be facetious here, but you can go to the left elbow specialist. You can, go see all these people that do all these very specialized things in medicine. Well, there's people doing so many cool things in real estate. I got distracted. And so trying to see all the flashy things that everybody's doing, it didn't mean that it was the path that I needed to take, and it didn't fit my skill set. And so, I made some great private money lending deals that all paid me back for about the first 2 years. And it wasn't until about 2 years in that I stumbled across the world of Pace Morby. And things just clicked much better. Once I started listening to Pace, and he's such an amazing teacher, and he can really hit home to so many people from many different backgrounds, that it just started making sense better. And whereas before, I was still doing private money lending, but I was also still trying to do things that didn't suit my personality, didn't suit my native skill sets. And I just thought that, well, if I just kept grinding, then, it would happen. Well, some of that can be true, but at the same time, did I want to be maybe not as fulfilled like I was in healthcare in this new venture? And the answer is no. And Pace and all of his teachings were showing me that, man, there's so many different other things, and you don't have to do all of the things, just the things that are best suited to you, as well as the things that you enjoy.
I love that you share that, Paul, especially your journey, right? Like sometimes people feel or tend to believe that you have to land exactly what you're going to do immediately. But you kind of walked us down this journey that it took you a couple of years before you really found Pace in the community and how it clicked for you. Can you share a little bit about what clicked and what was the kind of the motivating factor trigger that said, hey, I've got to join this, or this is something I can see myself doing more fulfilled and happy moving forward?
Sure. I think there's a big stigma that you can't arrive at a point where other people would deem you as successful and not be happy and fulfilled. That's a complete misconception. And so people may look outwardly in at me and say, wow, you had all these things, right? You achieved all these things, and you're just going to throw it all away. Well, that was a very limited way of thinking. And the way I like to think of it was, man, I was able to do great things in other aspects of my life. Why can't I do that again somewhere else? Why can't I rebrand and recraft my own destiny with the same skills and hard work and determination? Just put it into a different vein and go. And so while I was out there bumping into people and doing deals outside of the Pace community, as soon as I got into rooms with sub-2 students, with Gators, it just felt different. And I can't describe it any more than that. It sounds kind of corny, I know, but it just felt different. And until you've experienced it yourself and know what I'm saying, we'll just let it be corny for you then. So once I started chatting and building relationships with people in Gator and sub-2, it was just this go-giver mentality. There was no strings attached with anything. Everybody just wanted to be helpful. And I knew that I needed to kind of pour the gas on that fire to get things moving even faster for me. And so Gator is where I first jumped in, and a month later I hopped into sub-2.
No doubt. I love what you shared. I've got a 17-year-old son who's kind of going through high school, trying everything he can right now. And I'm happy for him, right? I tell him, go do all the jobs that you can find, and you'll learn through going forward, taking action, what you like, and especially what you don't like, right? And sometimes people in general, especially as we look at our Get Creative free community, you have to keep moving forward, taking action on what you do know, holding on to what you do know, but find that there are things that you don't like to push you in the direction of finding what you do like. And for you, you found that through your journey, landed with Pace. You talked about how he's simply educated and found things just clicking for you. And once you're in the right vehicle, you can move 100 miles an hour as fast as you could. And that's
Right.
where we're at today.
And I think everybody's journey, one key point to point out is everybody's journey is different. And yours doesn't have to mirror or mimic anybody else's. And so as we get caught up in social media and Instagram and all the things, there's a lot of flash out there, right? And it's awesome that people can achieve those things, but that does not have to be your path, right? And so I think we have to be comfortable in our own skin. We have to be clear in our own goals and vision for ourselves. And we have to be true to the path that we need to continue to take steps in and towards the goal that we set for ourselves. That doesn't mean that we can't have a detour here and there and maybe explore some other things, but always keep an eye on the overall goal and do the things that you have to do and make the relationships you should be making to help you get closer to those goals, not further away from them.
I love that. I love just calling that out one for a second about being comfortable in your own skin. I love that statement. I think to your point, too many people try to mimic or be somebody else that's not their true, authentic self. You know, and even Pay shared, as we know, being a part of his community, that his journey was different, and his journey and our journey may look different. And he's trying to provide a roadmap, but not a sticking point. Like these are the exact things you have to do, but give us guidance and direction as part of his community. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
You know, Paul, as we dive into, let's talk a little bit about this deal that we're going to talk about today. If you could kind of give us a high level overview of what we're discussing today, how you found it, and a little bit of the specifics of the deal itself.
Sure. So the high level overview of this is a private money lending deal that another Gator in the community brought to me. Alicia is in Southern California, and she came to me. I had never met or communicated with her before, and she just kind of reached out to me through socials and was like, "Hey, I got this deal in Dallas. Are you interested in looking at it?" And for me, I was a little leery because this was really the first deal after getting into the community. And so I was like, hey, let's at least have a conversation. I don't know that I'm going to be your guy to be able to fund this deal for you, but let's try and work through it together and see what's going on. But ultimately, it was like a second position lien on a piece of real estate that was going to have a really good return. So at a minimum, I wanted to find reason to say no and not just pass it up.
I love it. So let's take a moment to pause here. So you joined the community. This was a deal that was brought to you because you're part of this community that Pace has created within the Gator method community itself. This person you met, Alicia out of California, amazing woman. She brought this deal to you, and it was your first time being introduced to her. Walk us through, Paul, kind of how did that conversation go? Like, what did you do to kind of vet the deal per se, or her as a referral to the deal, and what steps you took moving forward?
So initially, we were just going back and forth on direct messenger or DMs, and then we decided to set up a Zoom call just to kind of get face to face, see what the body language is doing, see kind of if we're a good fit or not, and just really to talk about the deal out in the open. So she brought a ton of value to that conversation because she said, "Hey, look." This is the amount of money that he wants. He's got all of these properties. So I think he had 5 houses and like a vacant lot that he was willing to offer up as collateral to cross collateralize the loan. And so she had already had all the title reports ready to go to review. So that was huge, right? Because then we could see just how each property was as he was presenting them to us. And so after we were going back and forth, we got comfortable with each other. And we felt that, hey, if we're willing to put a little bit of skin in the game each, maybe we can combine forces on this and get the return and split it. And so that's what we ended up doing.
Awesome. So you were able to have these conversations with Alicia. You were able to create rapport with her and found that it was somebody that you liked and trusted after communication on your end, and you decided to team up together and what we call in the Gator method, wrestle together on this deal. And fund it. So let's talk about it, the deal itself. So what was the total lend amount that the two of you guys went in on?
Yeah, so we combined forces to lend $100,000 for 60 days for a 25% return, netting us both 12,500 bucks or 25,000 combined.
in 60 days.
60 days.
Right. I just want to make sure everybody heard that, right? You lent out and loaned out about 100,000 for 60 days in real estate property backed by real estate itself, right? So your money was secured and you made 25,000 and split it between you and Alicia.
Correct.
Okay. And what were the securities that you had in place? And if you could kind of share us those intricacies of the deal.
Yep. So luckily, the borrower was he was an open book. You don't always get that. There can sometimes be a lot of smoke and mirrors and a bit of a shell game, but he was very open and forthcoming. And so that was helpful. His lines of communication were good as well. And so as we started looking through these 5 single family houses, there was a theme. They were all over leveraged. As soon as he could refi and pull all of the capital out, that's what he was doing. Not a bad thing. That was just what it was, but it didn't help us into properly secure this loan. And so if he had really pushed for one of those properties to be the security, Alicia and I would have walked, because at the end of the day, if he defaulted, there was no way for us to get our capital back, let alone the promised return. And so the one lot that he had that was vacant was worth over $300,000. And so while it did have a first lien position in place, that first lien was 75,000 bucks. And so I was praying he was going to default, because that was a high value piece of dirt that should, if we had decided to build something on that, we could have got a much, much higher return. But, at the very bare minimum, we could have taken over the first position mortgage payment and paid that while we pursued the foreclosure to then take the property. And so we would have then paid off the first lien position in full. We would have sold that piece of dirt and got way more than we had anticipated. So we felt that was a strong enough reason to then be able to consider moving forward and lending on this deal. Now, there were some title issues. There were some timing issues as far as what we thought we were going to be able to close it in and what we actually were able to close it in. But through good communication on both sides, we were able to work through that, and everybody won at the end of the day.
That's awesome, Paul. For those that are listening in, can you kind of explain what over leverage means and kind of how you use that, like how that either had you dive into something different or look at a different property, or as you mentioned,
Sure,
and to leverage?
Yeah, lenders and banks in general, they have a specific loan to value ratio that they come up with that they feel is, their max amount of risk that they're willing to take on letting somebody borrow funds from them. And so he was over 80% loan to value on all of his properties, meaning there was 20% equity or less in each of those properties. And so if he didn't have enough equity at the end of the day, if I had to take that property back in the event of a default and then had to flip it or keep it as a buy and hold, whatever, I was not going to be able to get our investment back. And so none of those properties were going to work.
Got it. And so first off, Paul, great job. What an amazing deal that you're able to win and find other people to win-win scenario, right? As Kevin and Jennifer and you and Win just shared. And we got a lot of people shouting you out, Paul, on the chat. I'm not sure if you can see them.
Kevin and Jen are my DFWP.
Yeah. We got James Buck giving you a huge shout out. We got Mateo giving you shout outs. I mean, A lot of people that are your fans and friends from the community here watching us live. And so you're able to find a scenario where the properties that he had proposed were over leveraged. He had one of those properties that was a vacant lot. And you talked about how that was valued at 300,000. There's a first position at 75,000 remaining on it. So you had equity or potential equity of 225 still there, and your lend was over only 100,000.
Yep.
Yeah. And who found that property, or how did you come to know that there was this other property available to cross collateralize?
Again, great partnership with Alicia Gonzalez. She had everything lined up, ready to go. And the way she presented it initially was, hey, if I didn't have my money deployed, I would have done this already and we wouldn't even been talking. So again, her doing some due diligence before even coming to me with the deal was huge. And so when we talk about providing value to people, that's a shining example of how you do that. And so my value back to her was, look, I may not be your lender, but man, let me help you get this deal done. And so that way she could win. And at the end of the day, I was like, man, that's too good to be true. I'm going to jump in.
So after you did your own due diligence, you realize, man, this is a solid deal. Not only does the property work out, the numbers work out, and the person that is bringing to the deal also works out. Can you talk a little about that trifecta and what that means to you as a lender?
Wow, that just opens up the door for opportunity for repeat business, right? For me, being able to trust somebody, to be able to add value to them, and to be able to have repeat business. I mean, I tell people that all the time. I have a lot of conversations, and I may not be the perfect lender for you, but that's okay, because at the end of the day, what I'm looking for is relationships. I get so many blind requests for funding, and I'm sure you do too, that I've never spoken to, had a message from, the conversation with, nothing, and they just want money. Hey, here's a deal. I'm sorry, but I may not be the best lender for you. There may be some lenders out there that operate that way, but I'm not one of them. I am a relationship-based lender. So how this all came together, how it actually panned out, and how everyone got paid, it was just awesome. And so they don't always go that way. And so maybe you'll learn that a partner, isn't a good fit from a personality standpoint, and that's okay. Again, at the end of the day, this is a relationship game, and not everybody is a good business fit, and that's okay. Excuse me, that's okay. And same thing with, maybe you used a new title company and they didn't operate the way you thought they were going to, or another service provider. It's all about finding those relationships that you want to do repeat business with. And if I'm not a good fit for somebody, I may know somebody that is. And so again, being a good connector and knowing what people's needs are and what their personality types are, and who may fit together and vice versa, that's what I'm looking for.
I love that, Paul. And James just reiterated the fact, right? James Buck just reiterated the fact of doing business or doing deals with people that you know, like, and trust, right? And you took it a step further. You talked about the impact that building long-term relationships have. And I like to use a phrase, I look for transformational relationships, not transactional relationships.
Yeah.
And that's vital for me. And it sounds like you feel the same way. Paul, can you talk to us a little bit about how you use communication and how you like to communicate with potential borrowers or other lenders to build these relationships? Can you share a little bit about that for us?
Sure. Some people would describe me as pretty direct. I don't like to pull any punches. I don't like to sugarcoat anything. And maybe that's my military background, from having to make decisions in situations where you don't have a lot of time to mess around. You just got to do it and go. Healthcare is the same way. Sometimes you have lives at stake and decisions that you need to make. And so you just get right to it. So that way we can take care of what we need to take care of. So for me, I like to be as open as possible. If I owe you something, a document, a phone call, a response to a question, and there was a deadline, I'm going to meet that deadline, and I'm going to ask the same of my partner. And so if we're unable to follow through on the very little things, those are red flags to me. And so again, may not be that you're a bad person or that the deal is bad, but for me, it's not the perfect fit. And so, I'm looking for things like that. Follow through on the small things. If we can't follow through on the small things, how can I expect you to follow through on the big things?
That's so funny you just shared that, Paul. In my head, I'm thinking to myself, I just had a conversation with my younger son about fixing his bed and putting his clothes away. If you can't do that, how can I trust the bigger things, right? It's the small things done consistently over time that leads to bigger things. And this relates to whether you're a kid or a grown adult or in business or personal relationships. I just love what you just shared there. Paul, as you look at this deal and many others that you've done, what would you say in this specific deal that you shared was a big takeaway or a lesson learned through the process that you'd be willing to share with the Get Creative community?
I think there was a few lessons here, but a big one is, if the deal is secured, don't be afraid to make new relationships, try a new title company, try something that's a little outside of the box. So for me, that was my first second position lien loan that I did. And so that was a little uncomfortable for me. It was a new partnership, right? But at the end of the day, if everything went sideways, if everybody can get their money back and their return, well, then that's a win, even if the partnership didn't work out, right? So we want to make sure that everybody's protected. And once everybody's protected, then let's kind of branch out a little bit and see if we can try some new things. And so for me, it was getting a little uncomfortable with some new things. And that was good in a new style of lending, which was not something that I was accustomed to. For me, it was always first position liens, which some would call kind of vanilla or bread and butter. But, it was a great experience for me. So if you have good support around you and a good sounding board of somebody to run something by, hey, can you put a second set of eyes on this? What am I not seeing? What should I be looking for? What questions didn't I ask? And that's the great thing about these communities with PACE, right? So you have so many people that are there to support you. And it's been fantastic.
Can you talk a little bit about that support and what that looks like for you in your role and in those deals that you've done in the past? How has the community that PACE has created provided that type of support?
Whether it is in a Facebook group or the benefit of a live networking relationship that I formed, it's having the ability to text somebody, call somebody, send them a message, put it in the Facebook group, and just get almost instantaneous response to give you, at least point you in the right direction of the next step you need to take. Because sometimes we just get so jammed up, we can't even take the next step. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to know all the steps. You just got to know the next step. And so getting unstuck is sometimes all that you need. And that's been the greatest, I don't want to say the greatest, but one of the greatest benefits of the community.
I love that. I love that fact about each of us have to, individually have to get unstuck. And a lot of times it's our own lack of understanding, our own fears that keeps us stuck. And so having access to these major go-givers from within the community to help you get unstuck, help you believe in yourself, help you understand the right mindset, or help vet the deals, like you said, another set of eyes to give you that vote of confidence, like thumbs up, go ahead.
Yeah.
To take action, I think is so paramount to not only our own success, but the community success overall and in general.
Absolutely.
So Paul, as you look at these things, and for those who have just joined us, I just want to highlight once again where we're at today, the deal we're talking about with Paul. Paul joined the Gator subject community of Pace Morby. He made a contact from within the group, private networking, reached out to him on DM. Paul saw this referral come through, jumped on calls, built a relationship with the referral, Alicia, out of California, was able to look over the deal, saw that it, doing his own due diligence, saw it was a good deal, and decided to team up with Alicia, fund $100,000 on a deal, lend on it. In 60 days, got a return of $25,000 or 20% of what he lent on, and walk away with a major win. Anything I'm missing there, Paul, that we want to highlight as we talk through it, as new people just joined on?
No, I mean, that's pretty much top to bottom how it went. I think some of the big takeaways, and obviously this deal came not through in-person networking directly, right? But as we're out there, we're communicating with folks, we're going to RIAs, we're trying to advance ourselves in the real estate investor space. This is really a direct, it's a direct reflection of how you interact with other people, right? So how you are a go-giver for other people, how you're giving with no strings attached, it will come back in dividends, right? So trying to just go out and be in a room and bump into people, I'll be the first one to admit that I was an ineffective networker first on because I was terrified. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know who I was looking for. And now I'm just trying to go out and find how I can help somebody get unstuck. And I may not have their answer, and that's okay. But man, I might have their answer that would just change their whole day, their whole trajectory. And so in-person networking has had the most profound effect on my ability to find good partners to do good deals with. And so we have such great access to Zooms, to trainings, to, I don't know how many hours of Zooms there are between Sub2 and Gator, but it doesn't replace the requirement, and I'll call it a requirement, for you to go out there and shake somebody's hand and meet them in person.
I love that, you know, because you talked about both building connections virtually from the deal we talked about, but also the power of building connections face to face, shaking a hand, looking someone in the eyes, touching them, and saying, "Hey, let's do something together," right? And the other thing I love that you share, Paul, is I think about the fact that, you know, if you do work or if you do things individually by yourself, you may be able to go fast, but you won't go as far as if you do things with others. And you just shared, kind of highlighted on that go giver mentality and how the community helps support you and sustain you to go even further than you would have on your own. There's a phrase I like to say that none of us is as smart or as good as all of us.
Yeah.
And it just kind of hits with me as I hear you talk and hear you share your experiences. You know, Paul, what would you say for those listening in that want to get to know you better? What would you say is your superpower and differentiating factor from other lenders out there?
Building rapport and honesty. Those are my two superpowers. And I guess being direct would be the third one. So, you know, people can connect with me and give me what their issue is, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it. If it's not a good deal, I'm going to tell you it's not a good deal. And that's just how I operate.
You know, Paul, from getting to know you here on this call and on this live, I would also want to add to that, you know, as you share those things that you're going to tell them it's not a good deal, but it also sounds like from what you share that you're going to share with them how it could be a good deal or what other things they would need in order to make it a good deal. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. As you connect, or as I've connected with newer, especially wholesalers that are just trying to figure out, you know, what's the after repair value, what's the rehab bid, and you know, maybe their numbers aren't working out. And I'm like, hey, look, this isn't a good deal, but if you change these three things, I'd do that deal all day long.
I love it. Tina McKissack also just shared on Facebook that she went to her first meetup and had power in shaking hands and getting to know people, called it a game changer, as we just see right here posted up. I would
Yeah,
agree. I would agree. Get out there, right? Take action, meet people in person, get to know them. As Paul shared, build rapport, be a friend, be a go giver, provide value. And as you look at transformation relationships, transactions will increase. I promise.
exactly. If you put the transaction as the focus of building your relationship, it's probably not going to work. But if you're looking to transform yourself and find somebody else who is at the same transformative level, boom, that just goes, it brings both of you up much faster than just trying to do a single transaction.
Love it. Paul, a couple questions for you just to wrap a few things up here. How has Gator and Sub 2 impacted your life?
It restored my, I don't want to say restored my faith in real estate investing. It allowed me to be me still and be successful in real estate, right? Because direct to seller is not how I like to spend my days and my energy. So cold calling sellers and doing those things. And when I first came into real estate investing, I thought that that was the only way. And so what Gator specifically showed me was, man, if you just focus on lending and connecting with other people that maybe have more funds with you to then get a piece of that deal and chomp a piece of that deal. So you're building relationships there. You're getting capital as part of those successful deals closing. And then it's just growing and growing and growing from there. Same thing with Sub 2. Not everybody in Sub 2 is a Gator. Not everybody in Sub 2 wants to be a lender. However, they still need lenders. And so being a Gator in Sub 2 has been equally as fruitful, and the relationships there equally as beneficial.
It sounds like, Paul, that there's no shortage of deals coming your way.
No.
Right. And I just want to say that because you shared something just now that kind of triggered a thought for me. And I wanted to kind of put out there to the Get Creative space to let people know to be mindful of that, right? That there's always going to be deals. There's no rush to just pull the trigger. Paul was successful and is successful in what he does because he does his due diligence. He builds a rapport. He double checks his work, looks at the property, looks at the numbers, and looks at the people before he funds. Anything to add to that, Paul, or any thoughts there?
Yeah. So you just triggered something in me. So thanks for saying that. You know, as real estate investors, who are we looking for? We're looking for motivated sellers. Why? Because they're distressed. But what you don't want to be is a motivated lender. Don't let the pressures of trying to earn a dollar put you into a bad deal or make you decide to do a deal because of that pressure, right? So you don't want to be a motivated lender.
You want to be motivated, but not
Yeah.
those two things together,
Right.
right?
You don't want to be distressed as a lender.
Right. And guys that are listening in, right, where we're sharing these things and Paul's sharing his experiences to help you take action, but also take the right action, right? Sometimes there's blind action is taken and people move forward blindly and it gets them into trouble. Do your due diligence, connect with people like Paul and others that are major go-getters within the Pace Morby community to help you take the right action, the right steps, feel protected, and ultimately create those win-win-win scenarios for all involved. Paul, what's next for you? What's on the horizon for you?
Next thing, well, what I'm currently doing is I'm underwriting a ton of RV parks because I think that's going to be my next acquisition. Is going to be an RV park. Yeah, some of it's a selfish point of view because my wife and I, our family, we have a motorhome, and so we like to travel. And like, man, these things are cash cows. Why not get a couple of these things and support this hobby, this lifestyle? So that's one. I'm also looking at some other business acquisition things outside of real estate as well. And so still looking to be a private money lender. And that's pretty much it for me right now.
I love a lot of things on the horizon for you and your family. Guys, if you got deals for RV parks, obviously hit them.
Yes, send them my way.
He wants them. Keep them coming, right?
Yeah.
Keep them coming. Find him at on IG at _ Paul Lutter here, as you can see on the screen there. But Paul, what would you say to people that are on the fence with joining one of Pace's communities?
It is an investment that you will not regret. I know there's usually a financial reason people don't want to do it. And I'm not saying that everybody that joins is successful, right? Everybody's trajectory is different and everybody's situation is different, but it is not from a lack of support in these communities, for sure. So if your why is big enough, you will be successful, hands down. It may not be in the same regard that you thought. I thought I was going to fix and flip a lot of houses. I flipped a few, didn't enjoy it as much as I thought. So pivot. All right, cool. So let me go find something else. But I can't tell you how to spend your money, but what I can tell you is the quality of people in these communities are unlike any that I've seen in other communities. And so maybe you just have to go out there and experience other communities for yourself and then make the determination for yourself. But what I will say is I have zero regrets for being in Gator or Sub 2. I've loved every relationship that I've made and every opportunity that Pace has created for everybody equally in these communities.
I love it, Paul. I think to summarize that, just from my own lens and what I believe is that the value from joining one of his communities far outweighs the initial investment, right? Absolutely. It's not an expense, it's an investment because you're investing in yourself to improve who you are, the work you want to do, and you're investing in a bigger community of network of people like Paul that are going to support you and push you to get unstuck. I think that works with me all day long, Paul. Unstuck.
Unstuck. I like it.
So, Paul, where's the best way for people to find and connect with you? Because we've got so many people here that want to connect and follow you. Where's the best route? How's the best route to follow?
All right, so I'm old school in Pace's terms, in that Facebook is probably the best way. I honestly didn't get Instagram until he called me out live at our meetup in DFW. And so I'm a little clunky and maybe can't navigate IG as well as some of you youngsters out there, but we can give it a go. But those are probably the best two ways.
And is it the same on Facebook and IG? Is it _ Paul Lutter or is it?
It's paul.m.lutter is how you can find me.
On Facebook?
Yep.
All right. I just want to make sure everybody's got that. Paul.m.lutter on Facebook is the easiest way. But if you want to continue to test Paul, educate him, hit him up on IG, as you can see there.
Teach me how to IG.
Help him, force him into that realm of IG communication, because he's good at communicating anyways, guys. So, Paul, last thing, just any final words before we wrap up today's Q&A for the creative space.
So to keep it in the same theory of stuck, hey, look, you can be at any point of your life and get unstuck and change directions and go. You are the rate limiting factor in that decision. Obviously, everybody has different financial constraints and requirements for their families, but you can 100% take whatever position you're in and change it. And you are in the driver's seat of that. So have the confidence, surround yourself with people that are going to help you, love on you, and get you to the next step. Because remember, you don't need to know all the steps, just the next step. Thanks.
I love that, Paul.
Wow.
Get unstuck. Be that man. Just one last thing, D.
Wow.
Just as a reminder for the community out there, right? Any members of Sub 2, Top Tier, Gator, who are in the community, have some good deals, like success stories that they want to share and be a part of our live Get Creative Q&A, please email Taya at pacemorby.com. And I'm sure they'll be dropping up that email link here. But Paul, thank you so much. You're amazing, my man.
Thanks, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, D, what you got for us?
Well, Paul's wearing a very interesting T-shirt, and I have a question for Paul regarding that T-shirt that he's wearing. I see it says Iron Man, right, Paul?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Paul, I'm supposed to be doing my first half Ironman this December.
Oh, here we go.
Have you done
Nice.
one? I'm assuming you've done an Ironman.
Yeah, so I've done a
Oh,
few
wow.
fulls and a couple halves. So
Oh
I'm
my
here to
God.
help.
Oh my God. Okay, so I have your information, and I might be stalking
Hit me up.
you. I'll definitely be doing that. I need some help. I'm having a good time in my training. My training just started
For sure.
like 3 weeks ago. But I saw the
Yeah.
T-shirt. I said, "Oh wow, Paul is one of those guys. I'm trying to be like a Paul." Okay,
There you
wonderful.
go. You're gonna get there.
Yeah, I already got the bald head, brother. So I'm
There.
I'm close. Thank you so much
Makes
for
you go
joining us.
faster in the swim.
Yeah. Aerodynamically, yes, absolutely. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today, man. You've been a fantastic guest. Keola, as always, you're an amazing host, my brother. Thank you so very much. The chat definitely thanks both of you. So again, thank you again, Paul. And yes, I will be stalking you, Paul, and you will have questions from me. Thank you, brother.
No problem. Thanks, gents.
Take care, everybody.